Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Internado. The Black Knight Nation podcast brought to you by Higher Echelon, the company run by Joe Ross, former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer. A guest on the Black Knight Nation podcast. Check out our Black Knight Nation YouTube channel. We have Coach Monken's press conference from yesterday. We have Austin Hill's press conference from yesterday, and we have Champ Harris's press conference from yesterday following a disappointing, I don't think that is the right even word to put it, 21-14 loss to UMass. We bring in Steve Anderson now to talk about it. And Steve, I mean, you have a different perspective on this game, right? Because you have two brothers that are UMass grads, so you were probably hearing it a little bit yesterday about this one.
Yeah, a lot. I was hearing it a lot. Also, my older brother played on the 2006 National Championship team who ended up losing to App State, but they lost to Army his junior year. So I always had kind of the upper hand on him, and text messages. Oh, the times have changed. Don Brown's back. All this stuff. So it was good family fun to a point. While I was sitting at home, pissed off at everything I was seeing on Saturday. So really frustrating game. And just did, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, about how these losses against Troy and LSU could affect the team. And I was very worrisome about how we would come out and play, following a defeat like at LSU. And I just felt like we never could put the pedal on the metal and step on the gas. And it just felt slow throughout the game on Saturday as far as, I don't want to use the word sloppy, but it just seemed like something was off the majority of the game. And UMass came out and just punched us in the mouth. And it was almost like we never got off the ropes after that.
I think flow, right? Army really didn't get into a good flow in this game, especially on offense. And the defense we'll break this down a little bit about that counter play that UMass was running, and they just didn't have an answer for it a lot of the times. And man, I was thinking one word to describe this game would be sad, but I just thinking about what you were talking about now, it's brutal. That's a brutal loss right there. To a team that UMass's program had won 2 games over FBS opponents in their last 39 games entering that game yesterday. And I know Don Brown is there, and they beat New Mexico State at the beginning of the season. And some of the games they were pretty close in were one-score games in a couple games this year. Their 7 losses. They weren't playing like a team that had lost 7 in a row. They were not.
No, I mean, I said it last week. Don't sleep on Don Brown. He recruited me out of high school, and a lot of respect for that coach. And I don't think we slept on him. I just think I don't think we ever got out of the funk. I also heard just through the channels that it was we're just coming off like some Thayer weeks, and guys were having to spend more time in the classroom than they were able to, or really that they just had to because of exams and stuff. And I know how crappy Thayer weeks are when you're getting graded on something every day of the week, and it's just like test, get out of there, learn the next thing, another test. Oh, we got practice. Not making excuses. I'm just saying that there are, a variety of reasons why the past 3 weeks have looked the way they have. And, I was good to see Cade get back in there. A little surprised, as we were texting Sal, a little surprised that he went in when he did. But, yeah, again, I just think UMass came out swinging, and then it just we could never kind of get the initiative back.
Yeah, a couple of kind of not behind the scenes, but just from the press conference, you don't really like I asked Coach Monken a bunch of questions, of course, about the game, and we can get into the 4th and 2 play in a little bit. But as far as Bryson Daly and his availability on yesterday, I mean he went through pregame practice, but Coach Monken said something to the point where he took a shot that made his pain feel a little less, so he was ready to play. They didn't want to start him apparently. Champ Harris gets to start. Champ is a little bit of a struggle for the freshman. But I thought in the end, Steve, at the end of that game, when he had that touchdown drive, they might have something there as far as the way they ran their offense, like a kind of a 1-2 minute offensive drill real quick. You think we'll get to the Air Force matchup in a little bit. I'll save that for them, but they might have something there with Champ Harris and the way he ran that drive. So Daly was available, and it was just a matter. And I was thinking at the beginning when he's in the game, Steve, he's not running too much. He's handing off the ball, right? But then he gets that first contact, and then you see, hey, this offense can move the football a little bit when Bryson Daly's under center. He's a physical presence. He runs in between the tackles, and they got saved a little bit on that 12-man on the field when they fumbled inside in the red zone, right? But they bounced back. They scored. He scored right away. And you know what? That ended 159 minutes of Army not scoring a point. 159 minutes without scoring a point in this offense.
That is a dark 159 minutes, man.
And so I asked Coach Monken, did you think that it would take this long for this offense to kind of get in gear, so to speak? And he was like, if you had told me we would score 14 points in a span of three games, he would be like taken back by that and shocked. And that's what it's been, and, with all due respect, the defense, once they got it together, right, they allowed the first 13 points. And that 7 points in the second half was set up by could you tell if that punt was a fake or not? The one where they lost yardage on?
I don't know.
It was a fake.
I do not think it. I don't think it was supposed to be a fake.
Okay, he said in the press conference it was a fake, but UMass just schemed it right, and so
I didn't see, and I can go back. I didn't, unless it was like a pure run fake, maybe, because I didn't really see any routes that were a drag route or anything that was. So maybe it was a run fake, but I didn't see any wing back or anything sneaking out to catch the ball in the flat. Because it was only 4th and 6 or something like that.
Yeah, they didn't have a too long to go, but you know what? Before that, the snap, I saw Cooper Allen and Tyson Riley, one of the Shield guys. I'm using the wrong term. One of the Shield guys have a little chat. So I'm thinking in the press conference, I'm saying to Seth, I think this could be a fake, because why else would Riley talk to the punter? But then when you see it coming, maybe the rush from UMass was just too much. He did a smart play not to boot it and not to get blocked, and he just ate it. But then Coach Monken's saying it's a fake in the press conference. He called a fake. So
yeah, I mean, it could also very possible is there's just a miscommunication. I would not, misread or hey, just remember this is like one of those instances where we can run the fake here based off the call, and the punter didn't see it, or Riley didn't see it, or somebody didn't see the automatic check. There could be a thousand different things. So, but more than that, I think the defense played well enough to win. I do, I do think that UMass surprised the defense at first with their athleticism. And that goes to the point where I believe the coaching staff probably thought they could get through this game without Cade Ballard having to play.
Oh, Bryson Daly,
sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Where they thought they could get through the game without Bryson. And they just came to find out that that's not the case, and we're gonna have to shoot them up and get them back in there or something like that. So
I know just talking to a couple, I wouldn't even call them team sources, but the hope was for Bryson to save Bryson for Air Force. That was the hope.
yeah.
And that was my thinking too. And then, you get down 13-0 and something, you got to get some momentum. And you know what about that punt? I know I'm writing the quick thoughts, and that's not even on. I've written probably almost 1,000 words already. I haven't even mentioned that punt, and we're talking a lot about it. Coach Munkin said he was looking for a spark, something to spark. And I guess, are your options down to a fake punt in this offense? I guess it is. I don't know.
But on that point though, momentum's huge in a football game, and special teams is one of the. They're called special teams for a reason. Because when you make a huge play on special teams, it sucks. Like that defense would have just got punched in the gut after having to stop our offense again. Special teams lets up a first down. Now they're on their heels. It's a huge momentum shift. You have to try to find something going on when you're not putting up a lot of points.
Yeah, UMass was letting up 37 points a game, I think, or something to that note, and Army got 14. And you thought this was a game that Army's offense can get back on track. This was a good game in between, before the Air Force game to get some momentum, and it didn't happen. But the thing is, even through all they went through, right, through the 4th and 2 play out to 7 where the Army decides to pass, and man, break that down. The 2-yard punt, the fake punt that doesn't work. After that Champ Harris run, that 36-yard touchdown run, it's a 1-score game with 5 minutes left or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Plenty of time for the defense to step up and give the offense a chance.
Yeah, and it just they couldn't stop them quick enough, and they were left with 20 seconds on the clock
Not
somewhere
much.
around.
Not much.
Yeah, something like that. And I thought there was a time where between the first and second timeout used that maybe some time ran off the clock that they could have called a timeout earlier. I have to go back and look. This is my memory watching it from the field. And that any time there is valuable, right? Anytime there was valuable, and they just didn't have enough and they ran out of time. And I'm telling you, Steve, watching at the end of the game from the sidelines and seeing two senior tackles, Connor Finucane and Shane Buckingham. This was the play before the last play. We thought it was the last play, but it wasn't the last play. They're just staring at each other in disbelief. They're just staring at each other in disbelief that they can't believe this is happening. They've lost 5 in a row. They just lost to a UMass team that they beat 44-7 last year. They can't believe it. They just can't believe it. And, the signs are pointing, in my opinion, the signs point to the offense. The offense is not holding up to its end of the bargain. Granted, the defense allowed 234 yards to the UMass running back. That can't happen, right? But the offense, it just can't. The UTSA game must have been a mirage, because that was the perfect game for that offense, and we haven't seen anything close to that.
Well, I think another thing though is, in the beginning of the year there wasn't film on the offense. All right, so now teams have. They have not just film on how we're going to run, but they have tendencies, and they have alignments, and they have splits, and they have all those minute details that are all on film now. Teams have that to prepare for. They knew who our players are. They know who they need to target to prevent big plays. First 3-4 games, it's like kind of, we got new offense. Teams are like, okay, we don't know what they're going to be running, but now there's a lot of film on us.
Sure.
And teams can take advantage of that now. And to say that and go off of Ven's point, we lost in all 3 phases, but I think this one was definitely the toughest to watch throughout all 3 phases. But I think that they all kind of are feeding off each other to a point where I didn't think the defense played horrible against Troy. I thought we had a fighting chance there. Just
Yeah.
no points, and then obviously LSU. We're not going to put up 67, 70 points against LSU's defense. But again, 21 points is doable. That's kind of like where we see, the best defenses. Air Force has got a tremendous defense this year, so we'll see. But it's probably a little demoralizing to the team when going into games now, like the offense is struggling, and you're wondering if UTSA is going to come back, or we're going to be stuck in this 14 is all we got for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Yeah. So at the start of the game, right? 43-yard pass,
Yeah.
Big play, right? And then 2 plays later, they're running an end around for some reason. I have no idea why you're running an end around in that situation. And let me say this before I start getting on the play calling. When your head coach is questioning the play calling in a press conference and saying the play calling is part of the issue with the offense, then there's something there. There's something there. Steve, you played the game. Your football knowledge is much higher than mine. I don't have a down to my name above 5th grade Pee Wee football, but I've seen enough football to say that. What are we doing? What are we doing here with some of these calls? What are we doing on that 4th and 2 play? Why are you running a bootleg on a 4th and 2 play from the 7 and throwing to a tight end that's double covered in the end zone? There was nowhere to go in that play. You're almost using the sideline as another defender.
Yeah, and I kind of look. I don't. I don't. What we got here? We got. Do not see Army running the plays that Thatcher was calling at his last team. Well, so I do think that there is play calling, but there's also no like putting him in that position at the end there, a young quarterback, and he's trying to make something happen. You're not setting him up for success if it's not there. Mm-hmm. And he's going to force something. Versus maybe having a seasoned guy just make that quick read and see it's not there, and then just go, just tuck it. Go.
Put your foot down and go. Right, put your foot down and get out of there.
I don't like it when, and I use this term from what my just growing up with my dad when, but I don't like it when teams get cute with the play calling. Like it just doesn't. There's an offense and there's tendencies and there's things that we do well that when it's 4th and 2, we've got to just go with what we do well and not.
Monken said that. Yeah, Monken said run the football. He wished he would have run the football.
Yeah, we just can't get cute, and I that's offense, defense, and special teams. Like, no need to get cute. Like, one, we have never been a cute team. Like, we ran the triple option for the past decade. Like, it's dive, follow, pitch, and then your favorite, the inside counter, right? Like that was no, don't get cute. And I feel like in this offense, and it could just be feeling out the players. And, I think we've all agreed that this is a learning year and a feeling out year with how we're going to go and how it's going to go. And maybe that's part of it. That's the optimism in me is hoping that we are going through this process and trying to get wins, but understanding that this is a process and there's some leniency right now, not from the fans, obviously, and you're not going to get it from the old grads or the players or anything like that. But if there is a time to figure out if things are going to work against UMass, maybe that's when you do it. I don't know. Yeah. I honestly felt like
brutal.
Yeah, it was. I honestly felt like throughout the game that there was no real sense of urgency. Like this was never going to be out of our hands. Kind of like we felt like we were in control, even though we were losing.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, all right, like it's just a matter of time. Like it's UMass. Like we're going to be
Well,
okay.
yeah.
And that just never came. We got a couple touchdowns there late, but there was never this like, okay, we've come over the top now, and like we're gonna bury them.
Yeah, that was not going to happen. Let's go real quick. Thank you for the comments, guys. Keep them coming. John Griffin said no crack wheel seam pass plays. Yeah, no seam passes in this offense really so far. The real routes to the running backs that Navy uses a lot, or their slot Navy uses for their slots. That would be nice. We saw one to Tyrell Robinson against either Boston College or Troy, but the pass was a little underthrown. It could have been a touchdown, but it wasn't. So we've seen that once. No throwback screens is another comment. No slants I can remember either for us. Well, Isaiah Austin was your slant guy. Isaiah Austin's hurt now, and he doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. So that hurts. I mean, he's your top wide receiver. Let's go here. John Griffin. It's like the Army personnel does not match his previous personnel. Well, yeah, when you're playing at the Nebraska Kearney level, which with all due respect is Division II, and you have a very athletic guy at quarterback that can do a lot of different things, that fits your scheme, that you recruited to fit your scheme. It's a little different, right, Steve? I mean,
100% different. I mean, there's a reason why the quarterbacks get paid the most money out of anybody. And yeah, that's what's going to be. Our players don't match, and they're not going to match, and they may not match next year either. We're going to need to get, our recruits in here that fit this scheme. Don't be surprised if next spring ball we got some defensive players moving to offensive players moving to defense, and there's a jumble. I mean, the same thing happened when Coach Elliston came in, and the same thing happened when Coach Munkin came in the first time. Like, there's going to be changes, again, it's frustrating because a team that especially a team that smashed this team last year and just loses a senior class, and then we lose. It just everybody wants to point fingers at the offense because that's it's the easy button right now, and it for a lot of reasons it's easy to be frustrated with the offense with what's been going on, but it just was not a good day on Saturday, period, for anybody.
True. And we talked to Coach Munkin a little bit after his press conference and just asked him about under center plays and if he thinks about going under center at all. And you know what he told us? Every day. I mean, when you're scoring 14 points in 3 games, yeah, you probably have nightmares about this stuff, right? When you're a coach, and it's just like, what can we do? Like,
I mean, you know better than I, Sal. Is this the worst 3-game stretch for Munkin at Army?
That 2-10 season, right? They probably lost their share. They lost their share of games, but those games were always close, like a score, right? They lost at Penn State by 7 points or less. They were really close in that season. I think they had 7 games of.
I don't remember. Lack of scoring being a reason, though.
Oh no. No. Their last shutout was what, 2003 at Mikey Stadium. No, I mean.
Yeah. So I'm not talking about like the losses, because I know he did have. I think that 2-10 season was one of those years where they could have easily been 6-6. But just lost some close ones. I'm talking about these last 3 weeks I'm not going to say uninspired, but I'm going to say that there is an identity crisis. Not crisis, but there is some identity searching that needs to be going on in how these guys want to finish the season moving forward. And they have a really, really tough opponent this weekend.
Yeah, I mean we'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, like just looking through the years, right? They've had moments where they didn't score any points, but I mean I'm looking at 3 points against Duke in that 2-10 season, 3 points against Air Force, but then you know 5 point loss, 3 point loss, 6 point loss at Penn State. So they were close there, and they like lighting up the scoreboard? No. Will this Army team ever light up the scoreboard on a consistent basis? Will they put up 40 points a game? I don't think they'll ever do that, but it would be nice to be consistently in the 20s every once in a while, and give your team a chance to win. And we'll see. I mean, you know what? I have a little bit different point of view on, yeah, you need to get the right players in to fit the schemes, but man, by 2/3 of the season gone, something should be more. It should be operating more smoother. It just should be. You've repped it enough where you shouldn't be in this rut that they're in. I mean, I said that they're digging this hole. They're digging themselves a hole now. Last week against LSU, I mean, was bad. I think this is their worst loss since they lost at Yale, and that
Well,
and that's I think 2015 season they lost in overtime to Yale. I mean, this is bad.
yeah, I also think that the point of it being was it
Four Power Five opponents in that 2015 season. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Penn
Look,
State, Duke.
and look,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not,
Good point.
I'm not on the bandwagon, but I'll say this: SEC is different. All right, so you can call it Power Five, but
Yeah.
SEC, LSU, it's a whole different. It's not. They're so much different than Power Five in general. The SEC is by far the best conference in college football, so it's just different. But back to the offense. The other thing is there's probably not a lot of when you're learning a new offense, the starters are getting all the reps. There's not a lot of chances for second and third string guys to get reps because the starters have to learn the offense. So when you have injuries, and you have people that haven't had the reps as much as the starters, that's where you can see such a decline or such a gap in the first string, the second string, because they just don't have the sets and reps as the first team did because they got all the reps in spring ball because they had to learn it. They got all the reps in camp because they had to learn it. Go ahead.
Real quick. I know at the beginning of camp, the preseason camp, they were talking about trying to get people as many reps as possible to see where they fit on the depth chart, so to speak. So at the beginning of camp, they were mixing in and getting people reps. But now when you get closer to the beginning of the season, you're right. You're going to do your first.
Well, I'm not. Yeah. Yes, they got lots of reps, whatever you want to.
Yeah.
It's different than going from an offense that they've run nonstop for multiple years, where they've gotten endless amount of reps through the years, where your second string quarterback is a system quarterback along with your third string and your running backs, and everybody's a system team where maybe they aren't getting the first team reps, but they know how to practice and they know how to get reps on their own and they know how the steps go. And
you can do it in your sleep. You can do it in your sleep to a point. Yeah.
So that's where you can see when you lose starters in a new, and that's offense, defense, special teams, in a new system, the difference between the first string and the second string, there's a much larger gap because of the lack of experience in reps and sets.
Yeah. I was talking about this. I forget. Maybe we talked about this last week, but you see that they're, Champ Harris, right, freshman, Conley Udo, freshman, Toby Alawale, freshman, Brady Small, freshman. So this is a new offense. These are guys that maybe they fit the offense better than the more experienced guys, but those guys don't really have, like you say, now it's 8 games in the season. Brady Small has enough game reps at center, right? But guys like Champ Harris, who are playing in his third game against UMass, and guys like Toby Alawale, who they brought along, is now receiving some good reps. I don't know. I mean, some of
look, I will. This is just for me, this is what I believe is the correct organizational move or whatever is, look, you got a new system. Like, you got to put guys in it that are going to be in the system and they're going to learn it over time. And if you've got a senior who's as good as a freshman or they're equal, or even if the senior is a little bit better or a little more consistent, but the freshman has a lot larger upside by the time he gets in the system, you're going to force those younger guys to learn the system and go through those growing pains. Yeah. And that may not be what our coaching staff is doing. Coaches love to say that the best player plays, but there's always like an asterisk of like the best player for the program plays. Yeah. And that's kind of where me personally, that's how I would run my organization is guys that have more time and new system. I got to get them in that system because, that's how I'm going to get better results quicker.
Yeah, lots of comments here, you guys. We really appreciate it. Hey, Steve, I want to read you something that I just got from an Army season ticket holder and about the offense and just get your opinion on it, if you don't mind. I received a text message. This system, I guess you're going talking about the offense. The system goes against everything Monken ever said. Physical superiority will always prevail, and Army will never be physically superior. Therefore, run a system that reduces the need for superiority and execute close to perfection. This offense needs athleticism on par with the opposing defense.
So I think it is. I think there is. I think players are playing hesitant. I don't think we're playing full speed in this offense. Mm-hmm. I think we're trying to, and I think we are trying to be in the right place at the right time and the right alignment. And it's not a lack of effort. I think we are at a point where it is, I always go back to this because this is how I kind of frame things, but the 4 levels of competency, right? So you have like what you end up wanting to get to is unconscious competence, right? Mm-hmm. So without even thinking, you're just doing what you need to do. And right now, I think what we're doing is, maybe conscience competence, where we're having to think about doing the right things. And it's just making us a little more hesitant. And, and I don't mean to make it so black and white. There's obviously a mix there.
Sure.
But I have to believe that when we finally get this offense going, it's going to be a physically ran offense because that's just who Coach Monken is.
Yeah.
I understand that the alignment and the way it's, shotgun, but I still believe this offense can be physical with how we play call and how we play once we get to the point where guys are confident and not having to think so much about it. And that might be my glass half full kind of view on it, but I have to believe I'm right there with whoever that was, where I'm not, I don't see myself watching Army football with Coach Monken there over the next couple of years, and we're still like, kind of like feeling our way through games. I just don't see it. I see us going back to, not going back, but running plays to where guys are running downhill. They're smooth and quick reads. The RPO is, we're the quarterback is, putting the ball in the running back's gut and pulling it last second and hitting the slant, like that kind of timing, that kind of efficiency where, you're basically getting jabbed and hooked throughout the day, where teams can't, we're keeping them guessing. And that's
how
I believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, you don't know where it's coming from. And now, they kind of know they're going to try this. It's almost like the triple option offense where they're trying to soften up the inside, right, a little bit, and then to open up other things. And it's just like, all right, but let me ask you, just on I want to ask you on the defensive side of the ball, what the success that UMass had rushing the football. Now you're facing Air Force this week coming up, and that rushing, That rushing game is much more advanced, with all due respect, than UMass's rushing attack. Could Army have done anything to slow down UMass's running back on Saturday? Could they have brought more people to the line of scrimmage? UMass really wasn't throwing the deep ball often. They were throwing a lot of quick passes, getting the ball out real quick. Could they have done anything different on defense?
I'm not sure. There's a couple plays I reversed back to watch, and it seemed like they did. They caught us a few times in some stunts that just sometimes unfortunately that happens sometimes. Like we run a defense that based off of timing, the stunt either hits and it's great, or it doesn't hit and it's not so great. But it did look like there was a few plays there where UMass did a really good job, especially on that counter where they hid you can't hide it, but they did a very good kind of like flush movement where as people cross your face, right? Like as a linebacker, it's always like your spidey senses goes up if like everything's flowing this way, but somebody crosses your face and comes back the other direction. It makes you kind of stop for a second. And that's waggle plays, that's counters, that's, whatever. But they did a really good job of like kind of flushing those on UMass's side to where it was difficult to, if you weren't expecting it, I could see how you could miss it. So,
I mean, Munkin said they were prepared. They seen the counter play. They knew it was coming. They just didn't have an answer for it sometimes. And when they did, it was too late. And I don't know. Is there anything else that we could touch on this debacle against UMass? I mean, anything else the 2-yard punt? I mean,
God,
I don't know. Here's the thing, Steve. Before the game,
I thought it was 4. Was it 4 or was it 2?
Officially in the stats, they said 2.
Oh.
In the stats, it was 2. And I don't know if they changed that. I haven't gone back if they changed that after the game. But I looked. That's this thing where you look like 2, 3, 4 times. Is this correct? How can this even be right? A 2-yard punt, but it didn't go very far. It was shanked. We've seen this before, and it's like me, right? Going into this game, I'm like, Army shouldn't even really need a punter in this game against UMass. You would think if everything was going right on offense in the pass, they probably wouldn't even have punt against UMass last year in 44-7. This is not last year's team. This is not last year's offense. I get it. But I didn't even think the punter would be much of a use. But it turned out those were key plays. Those 2 punting plays, even though UMass did not score, I don't think they missed a field goal on the 2-yard punt. I think they missed the field goal. For some reason, they could have put that, Steve, they could have put Army away in the first half. And for some reason, they decided to try a 40-something yard field goal instead of go for it on 4th and 2 when their field goal kicker already missed an extra point. And I'm like, They could have put that game away if they would have kept their offense on the field, got a first down. You're up 3 touchdowns in the first half. The way this offense was working for Army wasn't coming back from 3 touchdowns, I don't think.
I think the other important aspect of that is I don't know exactly how or when but it almost felt like we were waiting, almost like we were waiting for something to happen to be the moment that, okay, now we're going to turn it on. And that moment just never came. Yeah. And I can't really explain it, but like I'm watching this game and I'm like, as I'm watching it, I'm like, man, it seems like we're waiting for something to like just kind of be given to us, or we're waiting for something to happen to go our way instead of going to take it.
I'm telling you, we said this in the past and we praised him last year, right? And for last year, we praised him for the last 2 years before that. Marquel Broughton, what he brought to the table, right? And he always had to say, I guess he called the secondary guys the takers, right? And they just don't have that this year. They just don't have the playmakers on defense. Unfortunately, they don't.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need that boost from the
there's a lot to be said, and you can look across a lot of great defenses. They all had an identity. It was, and they all had an attitude about it, and they all had, almost not necessarily a chip on their shoulder, but they were going to tell you what business was, going to be handled today, and that's, losing a guy like Marquell, it's almost like I don't know how to put this without saying like what I'm going to say, but like it's almost like you can't step up because it's like you're trying to fill such a large void that it's like, dude, like you're trying to be Marquell. No, I'm just trying to be me.
Yeah.
Trying to fill something that's missing. Where it's like you could almost be ingenuine or almost like an imposter if you're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Q Hammonds has had a solid season. I mean, I was surprised maybe, like I was saying in the press box, I don't know if they did. I should have followed it a little bit more closer once I said it. I would have moved Q Hammonds or closer to the box in this game. He was making some tackles near the line of scrimmage at times. I would have put a safety near the box. I would have left Max DiDomenico deep. Maybe that's what they did. I wasn't watching I haven't done the tape yet on the game, the snap counts. But I would have put more guys in the box and say, okay, we got to stop this guy. He's killing us. We got to stop this guy and see what happens. If they beat us over the top once, they beat us over the top once. I don't know. I mean, never coached a defensive down in my life, Hey, Steve, I will tell you this. When I got home from that game, right, I went for a bike ride with my daughter. And then I put on my leaf blower backpack that I haven't started up in like a year or two. And I blew some leaves for like a half an hour, and that was very therapeutic for me after watching a game like that, just to get back to home life, trying to put that away. And I hope that's what the Army team has to do that. I mean, they got the biggest, every game's the biggest game of the year, right? Well, this is now, I mean, pretty much is a 2-game. Is it not a 2-game season right now for them with Air Force and Navy? Is it not? I don't know.
I will say this. It's one of the best things about playing at, Air Force, Army, or Navy is a lot can be saved by winning the CIC. Jobs can be saved winning the CIC, and jobs can be lost losing the CIC. Not that we would ever want this, but yeah, I mean, this entire season, can flip on its head with a win over Air Force, and people will forget very quickly about these last 3 weeks. We come and show up against Air Force and get out of there with a W.
And you know what? To be honest, okay, so Army's an 18-point underdog right now to Air Force, 8-0. Air Force is ranked 17th in the country. And quite frankly, I think that this Air Force team, I haven't watched them too much here and there and then the Navy game, but this could be one of the best service academy teams, Army, Navy, Air Force, in a long, long time. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty solid. But the one glimmer of hope I see is that Navy game. They won 17-6. They didn't blow Navy's doors out. And Navy is having a better season than the Army right now with a first year coach, Brian Newberry. But it gives the Army a little hope. These games have been close in the past. And if the defense can step up and the offense maybe can get – I think that, they will never listen to me ever, Steve, right? I said at the UMass game, you win the coin toss – you take the ball on offense and you make a statement against UMass. You go down there and you score a touchdown. You say, we're going to do that more often than not. Well, they went on defense to start the game against UMass, right? But what I'm saying, maybe that drive that Champ Harris had that took a minute or a minute and a half where it was zip, real quick, hurry up. How about using that against Air Force? I don't know. How about trying something like that to start the game? And I know you want to chew up the clock against Air Force. I know you want to play maybe the old school game, but you got to get on the board to beat them. You beat them.
I mean, I think one thing that objectively everybody within the organization and watching the organization knows right now is we got to do something different, because what's going on right now is not working on multiple levels, and something's got to change, whether that's tempo, whether that's, how we're snapping the ball, whatever. Something's got to change, and we got to find a way to give ourselves the edge, because right now we do not look like we have the edge against anybody recently, and we need it. We're going to need it.
Yeah, and we only got to talk to Champ Harris and Austin Hill after the game, right? And to say that a loss to UMass gives the team motivation heading into Air Force, I mean, I don't know, right? I don't know. I mean, I think you're motivated, but Austin Hill did say we don't need any motivation. We that game is enough motivation for us, right? Now the loss doesn't put a good taste in your mouth and not a good feeling heading into that Sunday watching the tape and getting ready for Air Force. But I mean, it shouldn't. It's Air Force. That's enough said. It's enough said. It's a rival. It's a rival. It's a rival that you don't like. There's not a lot of respect. We've been through this a million times on the podcast. There's not a lot of respect amongst the coaching staffs. They don't like each other, and that should be enough motivation to see.
Yeah, I mean, UMass put a bad taste in your mouth. You got 5 weeks of that, so
yeah,
there's a lot of bad taste. if you need anything other than it's Air Force Week to motivate you to be dialed in with film, dialed in with alignment, eyes, feet, anything, may not be the right game for you to be playing in, because there's a lot of rivalry. There's a lot of also outside factors, like just with like how we view Air Force out of the three. There's a lot of chip on the shoulder from Air Force, knowing that they're just not the favored academy, even though arguably they've done the best out of the three academies in the recent history. So,
yeah, we'll see. They're playing that game at Empower Field, the Denver Broncos Stadium. They're not playing that on the Air Force campus. I don't know if that's any. I mean, it's still going to be.
I know.
Right.
I lived in Colorado the past 2 years, and they decided to go in Arlington 2 years. The year I leave, they're playing in Colorado again. I'm like, it can't win, man.
No, you're 0 for you. Yeah. Hey, the altitude, I'm guessing in Empower is the same as Colorado Springs, right? I mean, or about the same. Does that play a factor at all? You think?
Colorado Springs is higher. So I lived at about 6,800 feet. Denver Stadium's at 5,200. So it's almost exactly a mile high, above sea level. But no, there's definitely a difference. But it's not, it's not something that's, teams do it every week. So it's not something that teams can't overcome.
Let's hope Army can overcome it and maybe shock. I guess it would be kind of college football if you're beating a ranked team. I think the stat is they haven't beaten a ranked team since 1972, and that was Air Force. So I mean, 50 plus years ago. Why not repeat it? I mean, I don't know. I think it's 50. I think I saw the LSU graphic. They've lost 52 straight games to ranked teams or AP ranked teams. I think so. Now 53, I guess, if you want to. So, man, you could really change. Like you said, you can change the season. You can change, a little history too while you're at it. Why not?
And look, the season's not lost at any aspect, and a win over Air Force will be huge, and we can do it. It's not like they're just this, a team that's just like untouchable. Like, we know that we can do it. We just have to show up for 60 minutes.
That's it. On offense, defense, and special teams. That's going to be so critical in a game like this. You got to get it right, and hopefully they can get it right on Saturday. Again, it's a 2:30 kickoff. I think it's on CBS Sports Network. I could be wrong because I don't think they're kicking off on CBS at 2:30. But you definitely be able to find it. I'll be watching. We'll be watching it from home. We're not taking the trip out to Denver to see that game, but but we'll be having your coverage. Check our website out. I'm gonna have some quick thoughts on the UMass game. Put that baby to rest real soon, and then also our game stories up by Seth Mendelson. And check out our YouTube channel. We'll try to get you some. We're gonna try to get some guests on, some former Army players on here, Steve, sooner or later. You gotta try to do that. In the near future, hopefully get maybe one of your former teammates or somebody on from the past, because I think I really love to do those, and I think that in my fault it's been a little lacking, so we'll try to get some of those on too. But for now, we're gonna put that UMass loss in the rear view and look ahead to the Air Force big game on Saturday, guys. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate all the responses. You can keep that up if you're watching the replay of this, and we'll see you on Saturday. Hopefully, reviewing a shocking Army win.
Beach Air Force.